At my retirement party, my grandson whispered to his fiancée, "She's just a senile ATM. Once we marry, her money's ours." She giggled. She won't even know what hit her. I raised my glass and said, "To new beginnings." A week after their wedding, they discovered their inheritance was a pile of debts in their names. Retirement. The one word that should bring peace, relaxation, and the occasional cruise with a piña colada in hand. I worked my whole life as a financial consultant, built up a comfortable nest egg, and was ready to enjoy the fruits of my labor. But life had other plans. It started at my retirement party, a nice affair at a well-known steakhouse in Chicago. The place was filled with colleagues, family, and friends. There was laughter, clinking glasses, and sentimental speeches about my legacy. I played the part of a happy retiree, soaking in the praise. Then I heard it. My grandson, Ethan, was whispering to his fiancée, a young woman named Rachel, with a voice dripping with smugness. "She's just a senile ATM. Once we marry, her money's ours." Rachel giggled. "She won't even know what hit her." I felt my stomach turn. This was my own flesh and blood, the grandson I had helped raise, talking about me like I was some brain-dead cash cow. The betrayal hit me like a freight train. I wanted to march over there and rip into them, but I didn't. Instead, I smiled, raised my glass, and said, "To new beginnings." Because, oh boy, was I about to give them one. The setup Ethan wasn't always this way. As a kid, he was sweet, ambitious, even thoughtful. But as he grew older, entitlement sank in. He never worked a steady job, dropped out of college, and bounced from one business idea to another, always funded by family. His parents, my daughter and son-in-law, enabled it. I, however, didn't. I helped him when it was reasonable, but I always said, "If you want wealth, build it." He didn't listen. He took shortcuts. And now he had a partner in crime. That night, after the party, I went home and got to work. I owned a house, multiple properties, and had a hefty investment portfolio. But I also had a trust fund set up for Ethan. He didn't know that it had a stipulation. He could only inherit if he was financially responsible. I decided it was time to teach him what that meant. Step 1. The bait. I started small. Over the next few weeks, I played the role of the generous grandmother. I invited Ethan and Rachel over, talked about my finances as if I were clueless, dropped hints about rearranging my will. They lapped it up. Then I confided in Ethan. "You know, I've been thinking of putting the house in your name." His eyes widened. "Really?" "Yes. It's a lot of work keeping up with the house. Maybe you and Rachel could take care of it after you're married." "Oh, of course, Grandma. We'd be honored." Hook, line, sinker. Step 2. The wedding gift. A week before their wedding, I made an official-looking document transferring the house to Ethan's name, but not the deed. Just a useless, unofficial paper. They didn't check. They were too eager. Then I told them, "I want to give you both a wedding gift. A substantial one." Rachel practically drooled. "That's so generous." I handed them an envelope and smiled. "Open it after the wedding." They had no idea what was inside. The fallout. A week later, they were married. I didn't attend. Had a bad back. I stayed home and waited. A day after their honeymoon, I got a frantic call. "Grandma, what the hell is this?" I played dumb. "What do you mean, dear?" This paper. It says we owe thousands of dollars." "Oh!" I chuckled. "You should read it carefully. It's a list of all the loans you've taken out under my name." Because, you see, in the months leading up to the wedding, I had taken out small personal loans in their names. I had perfect credit, and as a co-signer, I made sure those loans were legally theirs. I had the contracts, the signatures, everything. Ethan stammered. But you wanted my money, Ethan." "Well, now you have all my debts." Rachel shrieked. "You can't do this. This is fraud." "Oh, but I can." "You see, Ethan, you legally signed those papers. I just gave you what you always wanted, access to my finances." They were drowning. Tens of thousands in loans. Maxed out credit cards. And the house? Still mine. Their inheritance was a nightmare they couldn't escape. The aftermath. Ethan and Rachel tried to fight it, but the law was on my side. They were stuck. Rachel left within 3 months. She wasn't in it for love, just the money. Ethan? Well, he had to move back in with his parents. His father refused to help him with the debt, and my daughter? Well, she finally saw the son she had raised. I still get the occasional call from Ethan, begging, cursing, blaming me for ruining his life. I just smile and say, "To new beginnings." Revenge is sweet. But teaching a lesson? That's priceless. I thought I had closed the book on their betrayal, but life had more twists in store. Not long after the shock of their inheritance turned to a mountain of debt, unexpected knocks began to shake the quiet of my retirement. It started with a late-night call. I was sitting in my study, nursing a cup of weak tea, when the phone rang with a rasping voice on the other end. "Grandma." "I need to speak with you," the voice said. I couldn't place it, and the tone was both fearful and urgent. I told the caller to leave a message. The next morning, a handwritten note arrived. It simply read, "There is more to this than you know. Meet me at the old post office at noon." I had not set foot in that building since it closed its doors years ago, and curiosity mixed with caution pulled me there. Inside the dusty hall, a young man in worn jeans and a leather jacket waited in the shadows. He introduced himself as Marcus. With a deep, hesitant voice, he revealed a secret that left my mind reeling. "I am your grandson's half-brother." Marcus explained that many years ago, before Ethan was born, my daughter had a brief but passionate affair. Out of that union, Marcus was born and kept hidden from the family. He had grown up in foster care, always aware of a missing piece in his life. Now, he had found evidence linking him to our family. His presence, and the claim to my assets, threatened to shatter the neat revenge I had planned. I felt a mix of emotions. Anger, betrayal, and a bitter twist of pity churned inside me. For years, I had used my power over finances to teach a lesson to Ethan and Rachel. Now, here was Marcus, an unknown son who might hold a key to an even bigger mess. Before I could respond, my phone buzzed again. It was an email from my lawyer, Mr. Daniels. The subject line read, "Urgent, financial irregularities, new evidence." I opened it and read with a sinking heart. The document attached detailed a series of bank transactions and clauses I had overlooked. It turned out that some of the loans I had signed in their names were part of a larger, almost forgotten financial instrument. A clause buried deep in the fine print now allowed any rightful heir to cancel those debts if they could prove their claim. And the evidence was in the hands of someone else, a distant relative I had never met, who now wanted in on the inheritance. As if that wasn't enough, I soon received another call. This time it was my daughter. Her voice was cold, yet pained. "Mother, I found out what you did. You have turned your back on everything we believed in as a family. Ethan is hurting, and now Marcus is out of the blue. How could you let it go this far?" Her words stung deeply. For years, I had been the pillar of strength. Now, she was questioning my decisions and exposing the fact that my actions, though meant to teach a lesson, had ripped our family apart even more. I tried to defend my choices. "I did what I had to stop him from wasting everything away," I replied, my voice trembling with both regret and stubborn pride. My daughter's silence on the other end was damning. The familiar echoes of old family dinners and joyful reunions now clashed with the harsh reality of betrayal and legal battles. I realized I had set a chain reaction in motion, one that might unravel my carefully planned revenge and leave everyone, including myself, in ruins. Then came the twist that would make everything even more complicated. A week later, while sorting through old documents in my study, I found a letter hidden in the back of a dusty file cabinet. The envelope bore the seal of an old family lawyer from decades ago. Inside was a letter written in careful, flowing script, dated back to my early days of success. The letter detailed a secret clause in my will. It stated that, in the event that any family member tried to manipulate or harm the legacy, a hidden trust fund would be activated for the benefit of those who acted in good faith. The letter also mentioned a mysterious protector who would oversee this fund. I had never heard of such a person before. At the bottom of the letter was a phone number. On impulse, I dialed it. A calm voice answered, "I have been waiting for you. Your actions have stirred things that cannot be undone. But now, you must choose, continue down this path of revenge, or let the truth and justice of the family prevail." I was left speechless. What did it mean? Who was this protector? And how would the secret fund affect the massive debt trap I had laid for Ethan and Rachel? With the legal documents in hand and my daughter's disappointment echoing in my ears, I felt the pressure mounting. I was caught in a whirlwind where every move could either secure my legacy or destroy everything I had built. As tension simmered, another conflict arose unexpectedly. A local newspaper caught wind of the scandal. A young reporter, known for her fearless coverage of family betrayals and financial misdeeds, began digging into the case. She visited the bank, spoke with lawyers, and even managed to get a hint of the secret clause in my will. Soon, headlines like "Retired Fortune," "Family Feud," and "A Hidden Trust," the shocking story of a family torn apart, appeared, stirring public interest and painting me in a controversial light. People started to take sides. Some saw me as a cold, calculating person who had let revenge cloud her judgment. Others thought that the family deserved to learn the hard way about greed and entitlement. The media circus only added fuel to the fire, and every new detail revealed another layer of conflict. Meanwhile, Ethan, feeling the walls closing in, turned to his closest friend, a man I had met years ago who now worked as a private investigator. This friend, Darren, had a reputation for digging up the dirt on powerful people. Darren began investigating not just my actions, but also the secret financial instruments and the mysterious protector mentioned in the old letter. His findings would soon suggest that things were not as black and white as they seemed. It turned out that I, too, had once been on the edge of ruin before I built my fortune. There were moments in my past when I made decisions that could have cost me everything. The protector's clause in the will was a safety net, created by someone who knew that power could corrupt even the best of hearts. Now, with both Ethan and Marcus emerging as contenders for my legacy, and with my daughter's faith in me wavering, I had to reckon with the consequences of my past actions. In the midst of all this, Rachel reappeared with a surprising twist of her own. Once dismissed as the accomplice in Ethan's greed, she now came forward with evidence that hinted at a secret pact she had made with a shady business partner years earlier. This pact, unknown to anyone in the family, suggested that Rachel had her own ambitions of wealth, and she had carefully planned to use my assets for a bigger, darker scheme. Her revelation hinted that the debt trap I set might have been manipulated by forces beyond our control, a tangled web of alliances and deceit. The more I dug, the more I realized that my carefully executed revenge was just one thread in a much larger tapestry of betrayal, hidden loyalties, and long-buried secrets. The protector's mysterious clause, the arrival of Marcus, the angry confrontation with my daughter, the media frenzy, and Rachel's secret pact all pointed to a dangerous power struggle. And I was right in the middle of it. Every day, the phone calls grew more frequent, the letters more urgent, and the faces at my door more desperate. I began to wonder if my own actions had set off a chain reaction that could lead to a full-blown family war, one that would destroy the legacy I had spent a lifetime building. I sat in my study, papers spread around me, trying to piece together the puzzle. I had planned a simple lesson in financial responsibility, but now the stakes were higher than ever. I had to decide, should I double down on my revenge and risk losing everything, or should I find a way to undo the damage before it was too late? As the evening light faded outside my window, I knew one thing for sure. This was only the beginning of a much bigger storm. With every new twist, the lines between right and wrong blurred, and the real enemy seemed to be the greed and ambition that had been festering in our family for years. I took a deep breath, picked up the old letter again, and stared at the faded ink. The words of the mysterious protector echoed in my mind. Your actions have stirred things that cannot be undone. The question now was whether I could steer the chaos before it swept everyone away, or if my own need for revenge would ultimately doom us all. And so, with heavy heart and a mind full of doubts, I prepared for the next move. The game was far from over, and the next chapter promised to be even more dangerous and unpredictable. The past has its own revenge. The weight of my choices sat heavy on my chest. What had started as a simple lesson had spiraled into something far more dangerous. The whispers of an old, buried family secret. A mysterious clause in my will. The sudden appearance of a grandson I never knew. And now, a journalist poking around in my business, eager to turn my life into the next scandalous headline. But nothing prepared me for what came next. One evening, as I was reviewing the old letter from the mysterious protector, I heard my front door creak open. My house was secure, no one had a key except me and my lawyer, Mr. Daniels. My heartbeat quickened. I reached for the small pistol I kept in my desk drawer and stepped into the hallway. A shadow moved in the dim light. Then a voice. We need to talk. It was Darren, Ethan's private investigator. He stood there, looking like he had aged 10 years in the past week. His face was pale, his eyes darting around like he was being watched. He wasn't here to threaten me. He was scared. I lowered the gun slightly. What do you want? Darren exhaled sharply and pulled out a flash drive from his coat. You need to see what I found. It's not just about Ethan. It's bigger than you think. The missing fortune. He plugged the flash drive into my laptop and opened a series of files, bank records, legal documents, old family transactions. What I saw made my stomach drop. My money, my entire fortune, wasn't as secure as I thought. Over the past few decades, someone had been moving small sums of my money into unknown accounts, slowly siphoning away my wealth. It was done so carefully that even I hadn't noticed. The total loss? Millions. And the name on the transactions? Mr. Daniels. My lawyer. The one man I trusted. But it didn't stop there. The hidden trust fund mentioned in the old letter? It had already been activated years ago. Someone had been managing it in secret, and they had diverted funds into shell companies, hidden investments, and foreign accounts. Daniels has been playing both sides, Darren said. He knew about Marcus before you did. He knew about the inheritance loophole. And I think he's been working with Rachel. Rachel's deeper betrayal. I stared at the screen, feeling the world shift beneath me. Rachel, who had pretended to be nothing more than a gold digger latching onto Ethan, wasn't just after money. She was stealing it. I scrolled through more documents. Rachel had been laundering money for years, using connections in the business world. She had convinced Ethan to go after my fortune, not just for her own greed, but because she had debts of her own, to very dangerous people. Darren looked at me. She was going to take everything, fake a divorce, and disappear with the money. But then you flipped the script. You dumped debt onto them instead. Now, she's desperate. The threats began as if on cue. My phone rang. Unknown number. I answered, and a distorted voice came through the speaker. You should have left things alone. A cold chill ran down my spine. Who is this? No response. Just the sound of deep breathing. Then, your secrets aren't yours anymore. Click. My hands trembled as I put the phone down. Someone was watching me. I had lived my life in control, always the one making the moves. Now, I was being played. Ethan's sudden change the next day. Ethan showed up at my door. He looked nothing like the smug, arrogant boy who had whispered about taking my fortune. His face was drawn, his hair disheveled. He looked like he hadn't slept in days. He stepped inside without an invitation. Grandma, I screwed up. I folded my arms. I know. No, it's worse than you think. He rubbed his face, then finally met my eyes. Rachel's gone. She took off in the middle of the night. I don't know where she is, but I think she's in trouble. Bad trouble. I stayed silent, waiting. Ethan swallowed hard. The people she owes money to? They think I can pay it back. I don't have that kind of money. They're threatening me. The weight of it settled in. My grandson, for all his arrogance, was terrified. I almost wanted to say, you reap what you sow, but something held me back. Maybe it was the years I had spent raising him when his parents were too busy. Maybe it was the knowledge that, despite his greed, he wasn't the true villain here. Rachel was. Daniels was. And whoever was really behind all this. A dangerous alliance. I sighed and motioned for him to sit down. We need to get ahead of this, I said. And that means you're going to help me fix the mess you helped create. His eyes widened. You'd help me? I met his gaze. No, I'm helping myself. You're just along for the ride. And just like that, I had my pawn back on the board. That night, Darren, Ethan, and I sat together and mapped out our next moves. We needed to track down Rachel. We needed to confront Daniels. And most of all, we needed to figure out who was truly pulling the strings. Because if someone had been watching my fortune for years, they weren't just going to stop now. And for the first time in my life, I wasn't sure if I was the hunter or the hunted. Final moves in a game of greed. Ethan sat across from me, a shadow of the cocky, entitled boy I had once known. His fingers drummed anxiously on the table, his knee bouncing. Darren, the private investigator, leaned back in his chair, eyes scanning the room like he expected someone to burst in at any second. The air felt tight, like the calm before a storm. Rachel was missing. My longtime lawyer, Mr. Daniels, had been stealing from me for years. Someone else, someone powerful, was pulling the strings behind all of this, and now, Ethan had dragged us into a mess that was bigger than just family revenge. I took a deep breath. We need to confront Daniels. If he's been shifting my money, he knows where it is. And if Rachel was working with him, she might try to come back for whatever's left. Ethan swallowed hard. And if she's in danger? I met his eyes, my voice flat. That's her problem. He flinched but said nothing. Darren cracked his knuckles. I made some calls. Daniels is meeting someone tonight at an old private club downtown. The kind of place where money moves hands without paper trails. He slid an address across the table. We show up, we corner him, and we get the truth. I exhaled sharply, gripping the edge of the table. Then let's finish this. The confrontation. The club was in a dimly lit basement beneath a five-star restaurant, hidden behind a bookshelf that opened with a concealed button. The place smelled of expensive whiskey, cigar smoke, and something rotten beneath the luxury. Darren bribed the doorman. Ethan and I walked in, our footsteps muffled by plush carpet. Daniels was there, sitting in a private booth with a man I didn't recognize, sharp suit, dark eyes, and an aura of danger. As soon as Daniel saw me, his face drained of color. I slid into the booth across from him, staring at him like he was an insect beneath glass. You've been a very bad boy, Daniels. The other man smirked. This is the woman you were so afraid of? He turned to me. You have an impressive fortune, ma'am. Or rather, you had an impressive fortune. Ethan clenched his fists. Who the hell are you? The man's smirk widened. Rachel's employer. The pieces snapped into place. Rachel hadn't just been an opportunist, she had been recruited. This man, whoever he was, had been the real force behind the scenes. Daniels, sweating, started stammering. It wasn't supposed to happen like this. I slammed my hand on the table, making glasses shake. Then how exactly was it supposed to happen? My voice was ice. You funnel my money away. Rachel takes Ethan for everything he has, and then what? You both disappear. The man chuckled. Almost. Rachel was meant to clean you out, but when you turned the tables, it threw things off balance. He leaned in. And now, you have a problem. Because you just put your grandson on a hit list. Ethan paled. What? Daniels swallowed hard, looking down. Rachel took money from people you don't screw over. When she ran, they started looking at her closest ties. Which means you, Ethan. And your grandmother. For the first time, I felt something close to fear. The man straightened his suit jacket. You're smart, lady. I'll give you that. But smart isn't enough. If you don't want to lose everything, including your life, you'll sign over what's left. Quietly. Or we let the people Rachel owes settle the debt another way. Ethan was shaking. Daniels was sweating through his expensive suit. Darren shifted slightly, the handle of his concealed gun barely visible. I met the man's gaze, my voice steady. No, a flicker of surprise crossed his face. Excuse me? I leaned in. I have spent my entire life understanding money. I know how to make it disappear. I know how to move assets in ways you can't even imagine. You think you can scare me? You think I didn't come prepared? I pulled out my phone and slid it across the table. Check the news. He hesitated, then picked it up. His expression darkened. Daniels grabbed the phone, reading over his shoulder. His lips parted in horror. I smiled. I exposed everything. Every shady deal. Every illegal transaction. The missing millions? The trust fund? The offshore accounts? It's all in the hands of the feds now. Daniel's face turned the color of ash. I tilted my head. You were bleeding me dry, but you got greedy. And now, my dear Daniels, you're going down for fraud, embezzlement, and money laundering. The man across from me leaned back, eyes narrowing. And what do I get out of this? I met his gaze. You walk away. You let Ethan live. And you don't come after my family again. There was a long silence. Then, to my shock, the man started laughing. I underestimated you. He slid the phone back across the table. Fine, we'll let the kid go. But you'd better hope Rachel stays missing, because if she turns up, someone is paying her debts. With that, he stood and walked away. Daniels tried to scramble out of the booth, but Darren grabbed him by the collar. You're going to prison, old man, Darren muttered. And if you try to run, I will personally make sure the people Rachel owes get your location first. Daniels whimpered. I stood up, feeling the weight of the moment settle on my shoulders. I had played my last move. The money was gone, but so were the people trying to bleed me dry. For the first time in months, I felt free. Daniels was arrested the next morning. The feds seized every fraudulent account he had, leaving him penniless. Rachel was never found. Some say she vanished overseas. Some say she met a less fortunate end. Either way, she never came back. Ethan? He had to start from nothing. No money. No inheritance. Just the consequences of his own arrogance. But to my surprise, he didn't resent me for it. He worked, for the first time in his life. At a real job, earning real wages. One day, he showed up at my door. I get it now, he said quietly. Money's only easy if you don't have to earn it. And if you don't respect it, it ruins you. I nodded. You had to learn the hard way. He swallowed. Will we ever be okay again? I considered that. He had betrayed me. Stolen from me. Mocked me. But in the end, he chose to change. I sighed, stepping aside. Come in. Let's start with coffee. I lost my fortune, but I kept my freedom. I lost my grandson's trust, but I gained something better, his respect. And as I sat on my porch, watching the sun set over Chicago, I realized something. Revenge had been sweet. But teaching a lesson? That was priceless. The end.